بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. المقدمة al-Ajurrumiyyah is from the most popular texts in Arabic syntax, Nahw, which is studied today all over the world. But when should you study it? When is it appropriate in your journey of learning Arabic to study al-Muqaddimat al-Ajurrumiyyah? And what is the best way of studying it so that you can gain the most amount of benefit from it and move on smoothly to the next text after it, which could be Qatr al-Nada or Mulhat al-I'rab or something even more contemporary like Jami' al-Durus al-Arabiyyah by al-Ghalayini. Those are some of the things which inshallah ta'ala which I will be discussing in this video bi'idhnillahi al-Kareem. So, number one, when should you study al-Muqaddimatul Ajurrumiyyah? Some brothers and sisters might think that because they hear that al-Muqaddimatul Ajurrumiyyah is a beginner's text in Nahw, which is true, they might think that this should be the first step in their journey of learning the Arabic language. However, I personally don't recommend that. So what do I recommend? I recommend studying a modern course book first. A modern course book which is going to give you enough vocabulary so that you start to understand basic Arabic and you get exposed to the structures of the Arabic language by doing a lot of reading, right? Now, there are many course books which can be used to achieve this. You can study the Medina Arabic books, or you can study Al-Arabiyyatu Bayna Yadayk, or Al-Arabiyyatu Lil-Nashi'in, or Al-Kitab Al-Asasi, or Salamat. There are many different books that can be used for this particular purpose. These books will, number one, give you the essential vocabulary that you need to understand basic Arabic. You will also gain some essential reading skills. You'll be able to understand the main idea of what you're reading. And if you complete these textbooks, you might even get to a stage where you're able to understand most of the details that are there in an Arabic text. They will also give you different activities. Some of these books will give you different activities for writing and speaking and listening, which is also very beneficial. Now, someone might say, I don't really want to learn Arabic in this method. I want to follow the grammar translation method. I've seen in the Indian subcontinent, the ulama, they've used this method for quite some time, and they're excellent readers of Arabic. And by extension, they also learn how to write pretty well. And that's true. Now, if you follow the grammar translation method, you won't really learn how to speak Arabic, but you can learn how to read Arabic well. I still prefer the first method over the second one. However, if you want to follow the grammar translation method for learning Arabic, I still don't recommend starting with al-Ajurrumiyyah. I recommend starting with something like al-Nahw al-Wadih or al-Durus al-Nahwiyya, something which is, number one, modern or contemporary, because al-Ajurrumiyyah is written in the way the classical texts are usually written, right? You have to decode the text. That's number one. Number two, it's a purely theoretical text with very few examples. So I don't think it suits the mubtadi' al-sirf, so someone who's an absolute beginner. Rather, they should start off with something more contemporary or modern, like al-Nahw al-Wadih, which is what I recommend, or al-Durus al-Nahwiyya. Al-Nahw al-Wadih, I recommend that because the way they present the qawa'id, the rules of Arabic grammar, is a very nice way of presentation. There's a lot of activities, there's an abundance of examples, which makes the process of learning very engaging for the student. Now, assuming that you followed one of the two methods, either you went through a course book which covered the essential language skills which you want to acquire, or you cover the text like al-Nahw al-Wadih. Now you can think about studying al-Muqaddimat al-Ajurrumiyyah. Now is the right time for studying al-Muqaddimat al-Ajurrumiyyah. Why? Because I said al-Muqaddimat al-Ajurrumiyyah is a purely theoretical text with very few examples, and it's written in the way classical texts are usually written, right? They sort of have to be decoded. And so it's best that you prepare for this level of study beforehand, before engaging in the study of a classical text in syntax Nahw. Now, after you've prepared yourself for this level, how should you approach the study of al-Ajurrumiyyah? Now, at this stage, I like to advise teachers, and I like to advise the students as well. But the teachers first, because I believe that it's very important, and I highly recommend studying al-Ajurrumiyyah with a teacher. Because most likely, most probably, this is going to be the first classical text which you're studying in Nahw. It's going to essentially give you the keys, the mafatih to ilm al-Nahw. Therefore, I recommend you study it with a teacher, because it does require a fair amount of explanation and decoding, which your teacher can do for you, insha'Allah ta'ala. You can study it face to face if you have teachers around you. You can study it online. We have a course on al-Ajurrumiyyah. We are about to announce a second batch in which we will be covering al-Ajurrumiyyah with the sharh of Sheikh Zini Dahlan, insha'Allah ta'ala. And you can check out our website for more details, bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. Every single text that is studied within an Islamic studies curriculum, it's there for a reason. It's not there just for the sake of it being read cover to cover. No, you're reading it cover to cover and studying it cover to cover to gain some essential skills. So what are the skills that you can expect to gain from a study of al-Muqaddimat al-Ajurrumiyyah? Number one, you understand the essential terminology used by the nuhat, used by the grammarians in the books of Arabic grammar. So this will, of course, allow you access to other works of Nahw, because the terminology which is used is common, it's shared. It is the technical jargon of grammarians of the Arabic language. Al-Ajurrumiyyah will introduce you to that terminology, number one. Number two, it will give you a relatively comprehensive and holistic overview of all the major concepts in Nahw. All the major concepts in Nahw, the foundational concepts which you need to progress to a higher level, al-Ajurrumiyyah will teach you all of those things. So that's the second skill that needs to be acquired. Number three, the third skill that needs to be acquired from studying al-Ajurrumiyyah is the ability to do basic i'rab. After studying the text, if a student has a simple jumla ismiya or jumla fi'liya in front of them, they should be able to do i'rab of it. If after the study of the text, these three skills have not been attained, then either the teacher didn't teach it well, or the student didn't study it properly, right? One of these two things happened, because this text is there for a reason. So how should a teacher teach this? There should be two levels of instruction to ensure that a student gains these skills which I just mentioned, to make sure that these objectives are fulfilled. Number one, the first level of instruction is that the teacher should read the portion from al-Ajurrumiyyah, from the metin of Ajurrumiyyah, from the text of al-Ajurrumiyyah itself. This is the first level of instruction, reading the text of al-Ajurrumiyyah itself, the portion which you want to explain. Just read it. At this stage, you don't need to start decoding the text and breaking it down, right? Not at this stage. First, after reading the desired portion, you should explain the concepts. Explain all the concepts. Use as many visual aids as you can. you use a whiteboard or a presentation, use diagrams, mind maps to convey that information to your students in an easy to understand way. So at this stage, you're not decoding the text, you're not breaking down the actual text of al-Ajurrumiyyah, you read it, right? And then you explain the concepts. After you've explained the concepts and you've given students enough examples that they've understood what you're talking about, then you break down the text of al-Ajurrumiyyah. Then you break down the text of al-Ajurrumiyyah. This is what this word means, this is what this word means, this is what this word means. So for example, al-kalamu huwa al-lafzu al-murakkabu al-mufidu bil-wad'. This is the first line after the basmala in al-Ajurrumiyyah. So when a teacher is teaching this line, he should read it out first, explain all the concepts relevant to it, then come down and reread the text and break it down. So based on what I explained to you, this is what lafz means, this is what murakkab means, this is what mufid means, this is what bil wad' means. And with that, the students will have understood the text. Now, why are we considering these two processes separate processes? Decoding the text and explaining the concepts, because the students that you're teaching, they are beginners, right? And if you do these two things simultaneously, where you're decoding the text simultaneously and explaining the concepts, the students are trying to do two things at the same time, and it's not going to be a very effective teaching methodology. Some of them will be stuck with the wording, they're trying to make a sense of it. Others will be focused on the concepts, and they won't be able to understand the wording of the text, right? So the best approach is to treat these two as separate processes. Decode the text later, which is what we call tafkik al-ibara, right? And explain the concepts first. After that, so this is the first level of instruction. After that, we move on to the second level of instruction. The second level of instruction involves going through reading with the students and explaining to them an easy and accessible brief sharh of al-Ajurrumiyyah. And for this purpose, for beginners, I don't recommend the sharh of Sheikh Khalid al-Azhari. I don't recommend it. Right, it's a very popular sharh, but I don't recommend it. I either recommend At-Tuhfat al-Saniyah or the sharh of Sheikh Zini Dahlan, which is what we will be using in our course. The sharh of Sheikh Zini Dahlan is very brief, to the point, concise. It conveys enough information that a student needs at this stage. It's more than At-Tuhfat al-Saniyah, and that's why I prefer it. So it's not too little, and it's not too much either. There's a perfect balance in it, and it has been recommended by experts in the field. So the second level of instruction involves reading from the Arabic text of the sharh and explaining whatever that needs to be explained from it. Now, what is the purpose of this second level of instruction? The purpose of this second level of instruction is to add another layer of necessary information to the lesson, right? Al-Ajurrumiyyah is a bare bones text, just like all the classical texts are. They're bare bone texts, right? And the shuruhat, some of the brief shuruhat, what they help with is they add a necessary layer of information. And I think that the Sharh of Zini Dahlan, the concepts that are covered in it, they are important for a student to know at this stage, at the first stage. And after you've already explained the text of al-Ajurrumiyyah, you've explained the concepts, you've decoded the text, the student has understood that. That part is understood, right? Alhamdulillah. So you going over a sharh after that, it's not going to make it difficult for the student. They've already understood the text of al-Ajurrumiyyah and the concepts therein in the first level of instruction. In the second level of instruction, you're just adding more to it. You're consolidating that knowledge. So it's very, very helpful for the student, and they also get to learn the methodology of classical texts and the shuruhat of classical texts, right? So not only are you teaching them the science itself, and the concepts of the science, you're also teaching them valuable, transferable skills which they can use in the future when it comes to accessing mutun, classical texts, and the shuruhat of the mutun, inshallah ta'ala. So this is the method that I recommend for teaching al-Muqaddimat al-Ajurrumiyyah. It's the method which we will be following in our course as well, inshallah ta'ala. Now, when a teacher is explaining all of this, there needs to be, this is the third thing and a very important thing, there needs to be a lot of examples, and there needs to be activities that the students themselves do. Because Nahw, Sarf, Balagha, Usul al-Fiqh, these sciences by their very nature are practical sciences, right? The purpose from studying them isn't to just understand the concepts. You want to apply those concepts. Right? You want to apply those concepts. Therefore, if a student is just going through the text without any activities, it is highly unlikely that they will come out, after studying it, they will come out having learned how to do i'rab, how to apply those concepts. So they need to start applying the concepts from the get-go. At the first stage, in the first lesson, for example, you'll be teaching them what kalam is and what kalima is. The first skill that they really need to master is differentiating between the types of kalima, ism, fi'l, harf. Many students, even after studying al-Ajurrumiyyah, struggle with this, and that's why they can't move on to the next step, which is actually doing i'rab, because there are specific ahkam nahwiyya, grammatical rulings related to asma, specific grammatical rulings related to af'al, specific grammatical rulings related to huruf. If a student can't distinguish between them, how will he be able to apply those ahkam? So, and this particular skill should be acquired within a few days of practice. It's not that difficult of a skill to acquire. That is the reason why the Nuha, at the start of their books, they mention the alamat of ism and the alamat of fi'l and the alamat of harf, and the ta'rif of ism and the ta'rif of fi'l and the ta'rif of harf, the definition and the different features of each of these, so that you're able to distinguish between them. And what you now need, after explaining those concepts, is you need to give them activities, and then you need to give them feedback on those activities, on how well they've done, and what are the areas in which they can improve on. And every lesson needs to be like that. In every lesson, a skill is being acquired. So there needs to be activities. You need to have activities, and there needs to be an abundance of examples for all the concepts that they study. If the students study al-Ajurrumiyyah like this, they will come out, inshallah ta'ala, having understood the text, bi'idhnillah al-kareem, and they will also have gained the skill of doing basic i'rab. And along the way, they will have gained many grammatical skills, distinguishing between ism, fi'l, harf, distinguishing between the types of jumal ismiya, jumal fi'liya, and so on and so forth. So this is the method which I believe should be followed. This is what I wish to discuss in this video. Inshallah ta'ala, I plan on uploading a separate video on some of the different shuruhat of al-Ajurrumiyyah, explanations of al-Ajurrumiyyah. بارك الله فيكم. السلام عليكم.